How do you feel about his staff?
It's very similar to Matt Nagy in 2018 with Vic Fangio, where Vic Fangio had all these defensive players, veteran defensive players, kind of on the rise, hungry, knowing that they had something good happening, something good in the works. I feel like that's similar right now with Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson right here. And Ben Johnson isn't the only one like yelling about the details. Dennis Allen, he deserves credit for it as well. He's yelling as much at his defensive players as Ben Johnson's yelling at Caleb Williams during practice. He is on them all the time about everything and anything.
How does this feel different with Ben Johnson than in the past?
You know, we were trying to go back I was trying to go back, and I was looking at, previous stories from the Eberflus regime, the Matt Nagy regime, to even back to the Trestman era. And I can't recall the type of conversations about the details to at least this extent, right? Like last year there was a storyline at this time about or a few years ago with Eberflus, like Jalen Johnson wasn't here. He was sending a message, everyone's got to get on board with the hits and all that. But just in terms of the obsession of details and just how crazy and how on top of it Ben Johnson is, I can't recall any storyline like this since I've covered the team. And I go all the way back to Lovie Smith. So the details and how much they're being harped upon, like instantaneously, guys, like on the play, immediately after the play, or even before the play's even messed up. I can't recall going through this before. I think it's different. Cole Kmet himself said it's different. He's been here since Matt Nagy. He's heard Matt Nagy call plays. He's heard Shane Waldron call plays, Thomas Brown call plays, Luke Getsy call plays. So this is all new for him, and I'm pretty sure it's new for me. I can't remember anything like this where the details are this much of a storyline in the beginning of June.
I think along with the Ben Johnson story, Adam, for me at least, the assistant coaches are a huge story as well, because as people will try to say, well, Ben Johnson was a great coordinator with fabulous players in Detroit. He's never been a head coach before. But having Dennis Allen, a guy who has an accomplished resume as a DC, and some of the guys on his staff, Bieniemy and Antoine Randall, I think that this takes some pressure off of him in being a new head coach. How do you feel about his staff?
It's very similar to Matt Nagy in 2018 with Vic Fangio, where Vic Fangio had all these defensive players, veteran defensive players, kind of on the rise, hungry, knowing that they had something good happening, something good in the works. I feel like that's similar right now with Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson right here. And Ben Johnson isn't the only one like yelling about the details. Dennis Allen, he deserves credit for it as well. He's yelling as much at his defensive players as Ben Johnson's yelling at Caleb Williams during practice. He is on them all the time about everything and anything. Al Harris, too, the secondary coach. We saw that happen today. So that's what I see. I see 2018 in a sense where you have this young offensive-minded head coach, but you got this veteran defensive coach where he could just take over everything on that side of the ball with a good roster, a good young roster, a good seasoned veteran roster. That defense should be pretty good. So I see it like 2018 with Vic Fangio, where we know that defense took off.
Tyreek Stevenson spoke today. If you had to project, what type of season do you think Stevenson has this year?
Oh, it's got to be a big one. It's got to be like for him as an individual. There's so much redemption that needs to be made just in terms of how last year played out. And I know it's a storyline that the Bears want to get past. I know it's a storyline that Stevenson doesn't want to discuss. It's a storyline that Ben Johnson hasn't even addressed much with Tyreek Stevenson. So they're trying to move past all that Hail Mary stuff and all the fallout that happened after it. So just on an individual level, this is a second-round pick who's been in rotation, who's been in national headlines for his failures. So this is all about redemption. He's got to it's like a make-or-break year for Tyreek Stevenson, this being his third season and him being a former second-round pick.
I know he doesn't like talking about it, and I know that Ben Johnson said that, and I know there are a lot of fans that when you bring stuff up from last year, they get really mad these days. But he's going to have to go through this one more time before they play the Commanders. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't the only time he's going to be asked about it.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a big storyline heading into that game. And, I mean, you know how this works. If there's one more mistake, one more notable mistake, some bad pass interference penalty called on him or just another snafu where, he's not thinking or the emotions of the moment get the better of him like they did in Washington that night. And if those mistakes happen again, it's going to be revisited. The storylines aren't going to go away, and his career is going to be on a different path. We know how these things kind of play out. So for now, in June, it's all about redemption and moving forward, but he's one mistake away from that being a storyline again.
Jahns, you were mentioning how it looks different with the way he's coaching him immediately. What does it look like today as we played the audio? Courtney asked the question, and then the follow-up about like when Caleb is late on a pass to Roschon Johnson. What does that look like with Ben Johnson, whether it's going after him or is it just hard coaching? How do you describe it to the layman?
Well, let me give you the visual of it. So it's during a 7-on-7 drill, and Roschon Johnson is basically running a swing pass. So he's going through all his reads, and he eventually gets to Roschon Johnson, who actually makes a catch for 11, 12 yards, maybe even more. It's a first down, right, guys? Like, this is a good play. But during the progression, during his drop, when the reads are being made by Caleb Williams, we could all hear Ben Johnson scream faster. And we thought maybe it could be one of the receivers, maybe it could be Roschon Johnson getting out there. No, that was meant for Caleb Williams to get through your reads faster because that swing pass was open. That check down was open for a big gain. So maybe Ben Johnson's thinking, all right, it's an 11, 12-yard gain, but maybe it could have been a 15, 16, 20-yard gain if you get to him sooner. So that's the visual of that play. I want to say a play later, he was screaming speed. I thought that might have been directed towards the receivers and their cuts and whatnot, but you're hearing it instantaneously as it happens. It's just one example from today.
And like I always say this too, and you were on the beat then, you alluded to how long you've been on the beat. Like I always felt that's what Cutler needed. Like if Cutler had a guy like that, just really coaching him up, sure there would be some moments where I'm sure it would get tense, but that's what the quarterbacks who have the great skills need. Don't you believe that?
Oh, yeah. Well, we've covered some. Well, I go back to this. Guys, we were in Bourbonnais, and here's Mark Trestman. Great guy, pretty good offensive mind, right? And there'd be a 20-yard completion down the field from Cutler to Martellus Bennett. And Martellus Bennett had like this habit of walking back to the huddle. It reached the point where Mark Trestman, the head football coach of the Chicago Bears, would run down the field to meet him after the completion, and they would jog back to the huddle together. This feels a lot different than that. I'm just thinking of all the offensive minds that have come through here. Even when Matt Nagy was here, he wasn't on Mitch like this in year one. It wasn't even close. So, to me, to hear how vocal it is, to hear some swear words uttered like in the moment, it's different. I don't know what different means like in the long run, but right now compared to other programs I've covered here from other coaching staff, this all feels different just in terms of the details and how instantaneous Ben Johnson is getting on his players about these details.
Aside from the quarterback play, Adam, what are you looking forward to seeing over the course of the next several months when training camp gets here? Is it how the tight ends work together? Is it how the left tackle battle materializes? Is it burden? What is it? Is it the use of Rome? What is it on that offensive side of the ball that maybe intrigues you a little bit more than other stuff?
Well, I think you're seeing this offensive line that come together. You have Joe Tooney at left guard. You have Drew Dahlman at center. You have Jonah Jackson at right guard. You have Darnell Wright on the right side there at right tackle. So the competition when the pads come on between Ozzie Trapillo, Karan Amagaji, and Braxton Jones, we're all kind of forgetting about him right now. Like, that's a big competition. That's the blind side of your franchise quarterback for an offensive-minded head coach. So to see that competition play out with the pads on, one-on-one drills against Montez Sweat, one-on-one drills against Odangbo, every pass rusher that can send at these guys, that's what I'm watching. Like when the Buffalo Bills come to town, the Miami Dolphins come to town, like that's when that competition can be won. If they do well, if one of those players distinguishes himself in those joint practices, that's a job to be had. That's a job to be won heading into the regular season. So that's definitely a priority. Look, I want to see what Colston Loveland and Luther Burden look like when they're healthy and they're on the field and see what the roles are in this offense. For right now, we have no idea. So you got this left tackle battle to kind of evaluate. Ozzie Trapillo was there today with the starters after Amagaji was there yesterday, so they are continuing this rotation. But when the pads come on, Tom, I want to see Montez Sweat go one-on-one against Ozzy Trapillo to see if he can handle him.
I want to see Luther Burden in uniform.
Yeah.
Man. I want to see
I was
Loveland
gonna
in
ask him
uniform.
about that, yeah. Are you concerned about Burden at all? Was he was out again today?
Yep. No sign of him at all. I think the only injured player that we caught a glimpse of is actually Braxton Jones, who was working out. He stepped outside briefly, or he was in the doorway just for a couple moments. But I haven't seen Colston Loveland around. Kyler Gordon, T.J. Edwards, they're supposed to be in this building. That's what Ben Johnson is saying. No reason not to believe them, but it's never good when they're not at practice, too. Even if they're hurt, if they're on the sideline taking things in, I see that as a positive. So when they're not out at practice and they're getting maintenance somewhere or they're getting treated somewhere, that's always a bad sign, especially at this time of year.
Adam, before we let you go, what do you make of the stadium situation right now? I know this isn't your everyday beat, but with the legislation not going through even addressed, do you believe they break ground on Arlington Heights in 2025?
Yeah, I don't know. I know deadlines spur action, but the big question I would have is, did the Bears just waste a lot of time by trying to make things work on the lakefront one last time when things were completely rolling in the favor of Arlington Heights, before Kevin Warren arrived? So I get why they tried the lakefront one more time, and I get that deadlines, like the legislative deadlines, they do spur action, but at this point, I wonder if it was just a bunch of time, money, and energy wasted in trying to make it work in the lakefront when everything seemed to be right there for the building in Arlington Heights.
Great
Amen.
stuff. Yeah. Adam, great talking to you. Keep up the great work, and we appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam.
Take care, guys.
Have
Talk
a Yingling on us.